Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our Proverbs class. And we have a very fascinating class for you this evening. And we're going to be talking about the concept of humility and arrogance and haughtiness, all the things that reflect the traits of people that we try to avoid. So let me bring up one of the verses on the screen. All right. And okay, let me bring this one up right here. And I think you're going to find it very fascinating. Okay, so here we go. This is Proverbs chapter 22, verse number 4. Ekev anava yirat Adonai, osher v'chavod v'chayim. Now look at these words. These are very interesting. Remember, at the very beginning of this book, we had the idea of Reshit Chochma Yirat Adonai, that the beginning of all wisdom is what? The fear of God. The fear of God. So this is sort of a follow-up. It's telling you the effect of humility is the fear of the Lord. In other words, in order to arrive at a place of wisdom, we have to have humility. And we have, and once we arrive at that place of wisdom, we will come to fear, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come to fear God. So this is very important. So what does it tell you? The effect of humility is the fear of the Lord. And then it says, Osher v'chavod v'chayim. It says wealth, honor, and life. How is that so? If we are humble, if we have the humility, we're not going to be jealous of other people's wealth or material possessions. In fact, in Pirkei Avot, in the book of Ethics of the Fathers, it says, Ezehu Ashir Asameach Bechelko, who is rich, someone who is happy with his lot. And it takes a great deal of humility to be happy with what you have. Otherwise, we always think that we deserve better. Likewise, when it comes to honor, same thing. Kavod, we want honor. We think that honor is due to us. No. Honor is due firstly to God. And if somebody else is receiving honor, okay, there are many people who shouldn't be receiving honor. That's true. But then there's also this concept that we say to ourselves, well, who am I? Why do I need to receive honor? And then it says, v'chayim, in life, you will have a meaningful life. You'll have a good life by not running after kavod, by not running after things that are that you feel other people have, that you want, that you have all these desires. You'll have a good life by having the humility to say, listen, I was granted this life, and I'm very fortunate to have the life that I have. And let me just stop sharing for a moment. It's interesting because a lot of people will talk about the kind of life that they deserve. They'll say, oh, I have such a hard life, and this other person, my neighbor, has such an easy life. I deserve so much better. But have you ever thought of it on the other side of the coin, where if we have a relatively good life, some people constantly have a horrible things happening in their life, and that's what, not talking about that, but the average person today living in the United States, relatively speaking, has a pretty decent life in most cases. So do we ever say, what did I do to deserve this good life that I have? Why me? Why me? We always hear why me on the other side, right? Why me? Why do I have a bad life? Why was I selected to have a bad life? But have you ever thought of it the other way? Why me? Why am I having such a good life? And that's a question what we ought to ponder, but it's a question that one cannot ask without humility. You have to have a great deal of humility to ask such a question. All right, so I'm going to share another verse with you, and this is going to be from chapter 16, verse number 5. Let me bring that up. Okay, so here it says another thing. We learned about the positive effects of humility, but here's something else. Here it talks about the negative impact of a lack of humility. To'avat Adonai kol giva lev yad liyad lo yinakeh. Every haughty person is what? Read this word. To'avat comes from the word to'eva, is an abomination before God. Assuredly, he will not go unpunished. Wow, powerful language. In other words, it's saying that there are consequences to not maintaining one's humility. And there certainly are. You see that it's modeled, it applies to everybody, but it's modeled in people who are in high positions. And it's not talking necessarily about the incompetent. Yes, there are many incompetent people who are absolutely horrible, who are arrogant, and they substitute their lack of ability with arrogance. And that's a terrible, terrible thing. But what about those people who have the ability, people who are good at what they do? You also need to have humility. There's an old saying, and I don't remember who said it, but there's a quote, and it goes like this: ability will enable someone to get to the top, but character will keep that person from falling. In other words, you ever heard the expression pride before the fall? It's important to understand that the higher up we get, even if it's due to our abilities, to our talent, if we don't recognize that, hey, you know what, I got to the top because I was fortunate. We have to always say, whenever we get to a high position or we achieve something significant, it's very important that we also say, you know what, there are people also, just like us, who are worthy. We're not the only worthy people. There are other people who are worthy who have not gotten the recognition or the position that I have or that you have or whatever we have. And there's a certain degree of mazel. This came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This came from God. So we have to keep that in mind as well, that we've gotten to the top for a very important reason. It's not just simply our ability, but we had the fortune to get there, and that's why we can't become haughty. It's a terrible thing to do. When we get to high positions, many people do. Many people are very arrogant at that point. Many people are not nice to people. I once saw another quote, by the way. It said, be nice to people on your way up because you may meet those same people on your way down. And it's very true. Very, very true. Listen, in today's climate, many of us are so keenly focused on ourselves that we chase success at all costs. And that's something that's really very, very bad. So I think this applies not only to achieving success. I think it applies as people of faith, as religious people. There's an old story, I believe it was about the Belzer Rebbe, a very famous Hasidic rabbi, who was once traveling, and he arrived at a place where he had to lodge for Shabbat, for the Sabbath. And he had two options. He could either stay by one person who was considered to be in the community an exceptional Jew, somebody who really was a great Jew, very observant, very pious, and learned, and there would be no question about that person's commitment to the kosher dietary laws. So certainly a pious person like the Rebbe could stay in his house. And then there was another person who was known to be a good Jew. He was a decent Jew, but he was, that individual was not learned. He was someone who was a farmer. He was nobody special. Was uncertain as to the degree of that person's level of kosher observance, kashrut, because did he know enough to really do the right things? So what did the Rebbe do? Who do you think he stayed by? He stayed by the latter. He stayed by the person who was the farmer, the simple Jew. Why? Because the Rebbe said, you know what, if I'm spending Shabbos somewhere, I want to spend it by someone who I'm going to make a profound impact on the person's life. You understand what that means? Make a profound impact on the person's life. He was told also, that's number one, the person who was the most pious Jew in town, who was known as the most observant Jew in town, the first person we just spoke about, he was a very haughty person. He was an arrogant person. And the Belzer Rebbe said, you know what? If somebody is so arrogant to that degree, what can I possibly do for such a person? How can I teach a person who feels that he knows everything? The person knows everything. What can I possibly say to such a person? It's when I speak before crowds, I prefer a crowd where at least some of the people will admit to being somewhat ignorant. Because if everybody is so learned and so pious and so wonderful, what can I possibly say to them that they don't already know? And that's something that's very important. We have to understand that when it comes to faith, when it comes to knowledge, there's always something else that we can learn. There's always something else that we can achieve. And that sentiment really takes a great deal of humility to understand. And, that's part of making progress in life. We could always say we finished something and there's no longer, we no longer have to learn anything. But that's a very, very destructive attitude. But we certainly saw, I think, at the beginning of the COVID virus, which at the anniversary already, it's been, about 3 years, I think, since it took place or since it became well known. And there were so many purported experts and so many people saying so many things and so much information. Everybody was an expert, and there were so many things we didn't know. We were fed so much information, we couldn't decipher what was true. And then it turned out that most of these people were far from experts. Many of them were just were idiots. But that was really the problem. Whenever somebody purports to be an expert in something, they're usually not. They need to come to the table with humility. But I would hope that COVID taught many of us, not all of us, there was going to be a lot of people arrogant and sticking to their guns, even if various theories, did not work out. But I would hope that if it taught us anything, it taught us that we don't understand everything that takes place in the world. There are certain things that are beyond our comprehension that we'll never know and that we'll never understand. And that's really the key to making progress. But the more we are willing to learn, the more we are willing to listen to different ideas, to all sides that we may not necessarily agree with, and then come to our own conclusion. That's really the only way we can live productive lives. So I hope that we'll take these lessons to heart, that we'll be able to step out of ourselves and nurture our souls and have open hearts and really come to learn this trait of anava, of humility. And in this way, we'll be able to impart our ideas to others, and others will impart ideas to us as well. And we'll, as they say in the Talmud, zen nene v'zen nene. Everybody will gain. Everyone will achieve something, will achieve a great deal of success. And coming up on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Beautiful, beautiful month. It's the beginning of the year, really, and I hope that we'll be able to have a great year ahead with these lessons in mind. Anyway, I want to thank you very, very much for tuning in. Please subscribe to our channel, and please leave comments with humility, by the way. Leave your comments with humility on the bottom of this, or not. It's okay. Any comment is acceptable. You comment, I'd like to comment as well. And we'd love to hear from you, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.